Imagine this, you are with a group of friends and you are at a random tea stall and you are discussing about like the tea that you are having. So one of the friends say like this is the best tea I ever had, and the other friend say like this is the worst tea I ever had, and the third friend say like this is neither good nor bad, it's like okay types. Okay, so you can see in these three scenarios like there are different sentiments revolving around the reviews. So one is like the positive sentiment, which is saying that tea is very good, and the second is like it is disgusting, that means like it is bad, that is negative response, and the third one saying like it's okay, so that means like it is a neutral response, right? So we can see like there are different sentiment, right? So now imagine you have an app that listen to all the reviews and tell you instantly whether they are positive, neutral or negative. That's exactly what we are trying to build today, a sentiment analysis app using OpenAI and Streamlit. Super simple, no tech degree required, only like basic Python you should know. And if you're not familiar with like basic Python, so no need to worry, I'll be there like with you, like hand to hand, we'll be building from scratch. So for those who are new to this video and who don't know me, so my name is Aditya and this is like Professor Analytics channel where I make videos on BI mainly, but like now I'm moving my focus toward like the new technologies that are evolving, that is AI. So I'll be also covering like AI topics more frequently now. So do subscribe to the channel if you are new and if you like my learning techniques and learning method. So there's a lot to learn in this particular video, so let's deep dive in. So let's get started. So first of all, like we'll start with building our app. So we will create one folder. So I've created one folder for sentiment analysis. So now what I can do is I can just drag this inside Visual Studio. Okay, so once I've done it, you can see this is the interface, how it looks. So now the thing is like the first thing is like we need to set up the virtual environment that we are dealing with, right? And before that we have to create a Python file. So just I will create an app file and name it as app file, app.python file. Okay, and now before importing any libraries, I want to like set the environment. So I don't want to use the global environment. Whenever I'm working on a project, I set to involve a virtual environment and I only install the libraries that are essential for this particular project so that it doesn't consume all the memory, right? So now what I can do is I can just install my Python environment and create virtual environment, delete and decreate, and using the latest Python library. So now you can see it is loading down. Now it's having loaded. So now the thing is, in order to install any libraries, we can use pip install if you're new to Python. So pip install, I will be using pandas, or I'll be using Streamlit, and I'll be using the OpenAI API to like produce a sentiment. So click on enter. So it will take some minutes or seconds. So let us just wait for it. So as of now, it is just installing the packages you can see down there. And once it is installed, so voila, you can see now it has been installed, right? So now if you don't see this terminal, so you can just go to terminal and new terminal and then add your pip install command. Okay, so now we'll just start process by importing first. So I'll just import pandas as pd, then we'll import Streamlit as st, and from OpenAI we'll import the OpenAI client. Okay, so Control S. Okay, now what I will do is I will just do parallelly. So I'll just take it to the left hand side of my screen. Okay, or first I will just go to Streamlit. Okay, so let me just do it a little right side. Perfect. Okay, so now you can see side by side comparison, right? So before I just go to Streamlit, so you can see it is a faster way to create an app, right? Or share it app. So what I can do is I can just go to the documentation, and in the documentation you can find all the references, like if you're new to it. So for example, if I want to start building an app, I just want to start with the header, right? And suppose for example I search for header, so you can see all the things will be there. So if I do it full screen, so you can see on the left hand side you can see the text element if you want to add in an app, data elements, chart templates. So if I want to add an area chart, so you can see this is how you can do so. So it's like a basic normal, only like what you can say is normal line of code, like st.area chart will create an area chart. Only thing is like you have to organize the chart, right? So all the thing you can just follow along using this Streamlit. And now what we'll do is we'll just go to this thing and we'll just start with the Streamlit.header. Okay, and I will just open the app side by side so that you can see what is building. So for that, what we need to do is first let me just write sentiment. Let us just do full screen as if now, sentiment analysis. Okay, and save the file. And now in order to see the app, I can just write call Streamlit in my terminal and I can just run app.py file. So it will get a local host in your web browser, and you can see the app running. So I'll just do parallelly. So let me just do that. I'll minimize it. Perfect. So you can see it is working. So now you can see we have created a kind of sentiment analysis, right? So let us just explore a little bit of a Streamlit. So now, for example, I want to create a text input. Okay, so I can just search here text elements to text input. Okay, so it will create a text input like this box. So what I want to do is I want to create a box like this, right? So I can just go to my app and I can just write in my code ht.text input, and I can just write it something like what I can write is I can just write enter your reviews, enter your reviews of the restaurant. Okay, so for example, we are doing for a restaurant as if not a restaurant dataset, but you can do for any other dataset. Okay, so now if I run, save it, and I just rerun it, sorry. Okay, so now you can see we have gotten text box, right? How cool is it? So if I write the food was amazing and I enter, so as of now, like, it is only taking the input but it is not providing the output. Okay, suppose for example I want to give the output also. So in Python we use print command, and in Streamlit we just use write. Okay, ht.write, and for example this is the review text that people are giving. I'm just giving it a variable name, and if I just write something like f string, and I can just write review of the user is, and I just write review text, and if I save it and always run, if I do it, so you can see the food was amazing, right? But as of now I don't want to give this curly braces, so I can just remove this, save it. So you can see the food was amazing, and if I change it like the food was amazing but and ambience was also nice. Okay, so you can see it is like directly like working live as if now. So whatever we are typing, we are getting the output, right? So it is writing it. So now the thing is, like, we have to figure out like how to call OpenAPI, how to use OpenAPI basically to fetch this preview input and get an output like the sentiment. So in this case the sentiment is positive. You can see the food was amazing and the ambience was nice, so both the sentiment are positive. Okay, so now in order to do that we have to write a function. So let me just go back to my what you can say is VS Code, and we'll just write one function. So for example, I'm just making function as sentiment analysis, and we are using OpenAI model, so OpenAI, and in the variable I'm feeding it with review text. Okay, so basically like what we want to do is we want to feed an input. Okay, I'm just setting comment for you guys. So for example, we want to feed an input by an user. Okay, parameters. So basically what I'm doing is I'm using the review text that the user is entering, right? And it is a string field, and what we want is we want the output to be a parameter that also should be string, and that will tell us the sentiment, like what is the sentiment, right? So this is what we want to do. Okay, so the first thing is like we need to call our client, or you can say the OpenAI. So what I can do is I can just write a variable client, and I can just initiate the OpenAI model. Okay, so I can just write a comment here, initiating the OpenAI model. Okay, and now what I have to do is I have to give the prompt. So basically like whenever you're working with ChatGPT nowadays, so what you're doing is you're giving prompt to it, right? Like if you want to know like which is the best game going on in PlayStation 5, so you have to give the comment and then ChatGPT complete it. Like ChatGPT analyze the web and do your search, right? So for example, if I go to ChatGPT, okay, and if I search category which is the upcoming games of PS5 in 2025 or upcoming most anticipated. Okay, so now what it is doing is it is searching the web and then it is completing the output for you which you have given. So you can see GTA 6 and Ghost of UT, sorry, and Death Stranding 2, which is released. So these are the titles like that are most anticipated titles, right? So now what you have to do is you have to give the prompt to the OpenAI system to analyze the preview text that has been given by the user and to analyze whether the sentiment was positive, negative, or neutral. But we have to give a good prompt. Okay, so I'm just giving a prompt, like a basic prompt. Analyze the review given by the user and give the output as a sentiment positive, negative, or neutral based on sentiment. Okay, so I have just given this prompt. Okay, and I want to use this prompt with my review text, right? So I have to see this prompt in the text that I'm providing, right? So I have to give that also. Okay, so I will just copy paste one of the code from chat completion OpenAI. So now this is the code. What is doing, I will explain you. So basically what we are doing, what we are identifying here is we are just giving which model to use. We are using model GPT-40, and this is the normal format we give to the, what you can say, OpenAI system. So the first one is like based on role system and the content you are assistant, and the second dictionary like provide what does we want to define. So the role is the user, so basically the user is defining the review text, right? And the content you have to consume is the prompt that the user is using. Okay, based on that you need to provide the sentiment using this function. Okay, so that is what this function is doing, and this is like just returning the message content. So this is in the dictionary. It receives so many things, IDs and like all the things, necessary things. So we want to give the output as message content. That's why we are given message.content. Okay, so in order to show you, so you can see this kind of response you get, like object, ID, model, and these many things, and you will get one as content. Okay, so this is an example for update chat, so that's why you're not seeing. But if you see for add chat, so you will see the content. So you can see in this case get chat, you are seeing an example for content, right? So that's why we want to get the output as message content. Okay, so I hope you are able to understand. So now what we want to do is we want to give the output, right? So now what I can do is I can just copy paste it and like just align it a bit after like function, and just want to give the review text and write the review text that the user has provided. And now what I want to do is I want to get the sentiments, right? What is the sentiment of the particular message that user have given, right? So what I can do is I can just get a variable known as sentiment, and I can just call my function that is there, and I can just pass the review text inside it. Okay, and then what I can do is I can just write down markdown. I'll just use markdown in this case. So markdown is also one of the way to mark down in, like basically write in the print in kind of Streamlit. Okay, so now what I will do is I will just write, there's a particular format you have to do. So markdown, I will just use sentiment. Okay, and comma, and I will just write sentiment. Okay, and if I save it, okay, so now if I do it parallelly, so if I open this and if I open my Streamlit and if I do it parallelly, okay, so you can see the API key client connection must be set either to passing API key to the client or setting the open API key environment variable. Okay, so that is right. So basically like we are using the OpenAI model, right? So we need to call the API. So whenever we are calling an API, we need to have an API key involved in it. Okay, so let us just see how to use API key. So what we can do is we can go to OpenAI API key. Okay, and we can just go to API keys. Okay, so this is how it will look. So for you it will look like this. I'll just remove the key which I already have, and now what you can do is you can just create a new secret key, and you can just name it as my personal key. Okay, and click create secret key. Okay, so this is the key, just copy it. So basically like this is the key which comes only one time. Either you can save it to your browser or something, just copy paste it and save it somewhere, because if I copy it and if I click on done and if I click on edit now, I cannot see the key. Okay, you have to create again a new key whenever using OpenAI model. Okay, so that is the thing. So now I have copied the key. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to give the key, right? So let me just go to Streamlit. Okay, and for initiating, I have to write a command for OpenAI key configuration. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to give it as a sidebar to write the OpenAI key. Okay, so what I can do is I can just create one variable, like suppose for example in this case OpenAI key, and I can just give st.sidebar, and I want to give it a text input. Okay, let me just scroll a little left so you can see, and I can give the text input like enter your API key, comma, and type, I want to give it the password, so you can type your password. Okay, and I can also provide some help section. For example, if you want to find your API key, you can just go to this documentation, open close tab, you can just go to this tab. Okay, so if the user are doing for first time, I can also provide them something. Okay, so now if I save this and if I go to my Streamlit, so you can see now I've got an option for writing your API key, right? But I forgot to save it somewhere, my API key. So now again I have to go, again I have to delete and delete it, and I have to create one more key and my API key, and I can just click on create secret key. Perfect. And after doing so, I can just copy it, and now if I go to Streamlit, I can just paste it on the left hand side and click on enter. Okay, now it is giving like the API key client must be either passed to the client. Okay, so we have defined a client variable, right? So we have to pass the key variable from here, API key equal to use this open API key, and save it, and it will done. So perfect. Set object cannot be interpreted as integer, so it is throwing some error here. Paste it here, and if I run this and go to my Streamlit, so now you can see it has like the error is gone, right? So now you can see it is like if you're giving the review, and suppose for example I also want to give st dot header here, and I want to give the header as sentiment and save it as okay, so it will rerun it. It will just give the header for sentiment. Okay, and now what I want to do is I don't want to use this. Okay, let's save it. Okay, for the message was nice. Okay, now for example if I give something else, okay, in my chat box, like for example if I say the ambience was not that much good. Okay, so now you can see the sentiment of the review is negative and the user expressed dissatisfaction. Okay, now if I say the tea here was normal, okay, so now it is a neutral response, right? So you can see the review tea was neutral sentiment. Okay, so now you can see it is giving me the sentiment, like what it is, like either positive, negative or neutral, right? So this is what we are getting. Now if I remove this, okay, and in the as a single word I want an output. Okay, I give single word and plus save it. Okay, so now you can see it is giving only the single word. So basically like you have to play with your prompting, like how you want the output to be. So in this case I only want one liner, that's why it is giving me one liner. So now if I want like I am amazing, okay, so you can see it's a positive response, right? So how cool is that? So now you can see how we have built our basic thing. Now the only thing is that you need to make sure is, sorry, for using our open API key, let me just go back here, basic Streamlit app. Now the thing is like we have to configure our open API key, right? So what you can do is you can just go to usage, okay, or what you can do is you can just type in OpenAI billing, okay, and just go to your billing page, account billing. So whenever you go to billing page, there's a payment method. So you have to add your payment method and you have to recharge of $5 minimum in order to call OpenAI API. So it is not that much free, but I think it's cheap only. It's like 500 rupees. You can like invest 500 rupees to learn about OpenAI platform and you can utilize it to build your project. So I think it's a good investment you can do. So after that you can just delete your payment method if you want to delete it, or you can just also set up do not uh, auto recharge is off. So all the setting you can do once you have added your payment method. Okay, so that I wanted to just tell you that you'll be not able to call your function unless you have OpenAI key configured and the billing has been done. Okay, the minimum is $5. Okay, and now I think this is fine. Now the thing is, like, for example, I don't want to give as a text input. Okay, this is my app, so I don't want to give a text input. I want to give it as a file uploader. I want to give the file. So what I can do is I can just search if any file uploader is there. So you can see there's an option for file uploader. You can also upload the file. So there's an option to upload a file. Okay, so now instead of text I will just upload a file. So I'll just comment this out and comment this out. So this is the second part which we are doing. So first part I think we are okay with it. So we have understand the basic of Streamlit and basic of OpenAI model, how to use OpenAI keys and how to like form your prompt, all the things like that, and how to like create a basic app, right? Now the thing is, like, we want to move into a little bit advanced version. Okay, now what I want to do is I will just hide this. Okay, and now I want to use a file uploader. Okay, so I'll just write file upload, and I can just write st.file uploader, and then I can just write please address the user behavior file for the particular restaurant. Okay, user review I can just write instead of behavior. Okay, and comma, I can just give the type as if now, for example, I only want to provide the CSV file. Okay, if I save it and if I do it a little bit on the left hand side and open our browser on the right hand side, so we can see if it is working. So perfect. So now I can see you have got an option for the file uploader, right? So if I browse any file, okay, and for example if I go to my sentiment analysis and restaurant review, for example, and if I open this file, okay, perfect. So now what we have done is, like, we have like given the app interfaces like dragging a file, and you can see the file have been uploaded. Now the thing is, like, we need to fetch the column name, right? First we need to load the file. So the thing is, like, for example, if the file uploaded is not none, because it's like some file has been attached, then what I want to do is I want to read it. Okay, so in order to read it, like we need to use pandas pd.read underscore csv. Okay, and here I can just type it as like this. There's only one file, and I can just put the file upload. Okay, and what I can do is I can just give it as a review df file. Okay, data frame I'm just giving. And now what I want to do is I want to, after reading the file, I want to check like what are the columns in there, right? So there might be different columns. Like for example, if you have a file, you can have different columns, right? You can have column related to serial number, like the movie name, like the restaurant name, the restaurant review. But in this case, we only have the review data, so it's like a little bit easy. But we'll just create a logic for the file if it is like having more columns. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to see the text columns, right? So for text columns, I can just write it like review df. Okay, and I can just write select d types, and I want to select d types where type equal to object. Okay, so basically what I'm doing is I'm just selecting all the data frame, and I'm just selecting which column is data type is object. So basically, like whenever you're working on Python, you know the text columns are like given the data type as object. Okay, text column review df dot select data types object. Okay, and I'm just selecting the columns. Okay, do one more thing, I'll just copy paste it. So now you can see what I have done here is, so if my length of text column is 0, like if there's no text column in my data set, so then you want to give an error. So I've just given st.error, no text column was found. But if it is not the case, then I want to give a select box, like a but you can say filter kind of thing. You can just select which text column you want to review. So if I run this, so perfect. Now if I browse the file, Okay, and if I just do restaurant file, open it. Okay, so now you can see data frame dot select data types got an unexpected argument type. Okay, so I think it should not be type, there should be something else. uh, Control S. Okay, perfect. So now you can see there's a column selector. So in this case, I have a file which only have one column. That's why it is showing only one column. But if you have a file which have like multiple column, it will show all the columns. But you can select the basically the text column based on yourself. Okay. So how cool is it, right? Now what I want to do is I want to show the sentiments, like how many positive sentiments are there, how many negative sentiments, how many neutral sentiment. Okay, and before that I just want to write the data frame. I just want to show the data frame in my canvas. Okay, so that I can understand. So what I can do is I can just write st.write, and I can just write review df. Okay, and if I give control s and if I open it on a full screen, so you can see these are the reviews which have been got. Pasta was incredibly fresh and flavorful, will definitely come back. All the reviews are there. Okay, so this is a pretty small file, but you can use a big file also. Just for demonstration purposes, I'm just trying to explain you. Okay, now the thing is, like for example, I want to create a sentiment column. Okay, so what I can do is in data frame we can just write review df, and I can just write sentiment. Okay, and equal to review df. Okay, and I want to select the review column. Okay, and I want to apply, and what I want to apply is I want to apply the function that is sentiment analysis OpenAI. Okay, and now what I will do is I will just copy this and I'll just paste it after this. Okay, and I also want to yeah, save it. Perfect. So now you can see it has defined the sentiment like positive, neutral, negative, right? So it has given all the thing for all the thing, but you can see there are some negative is and small and negative and capital. So there's a multiple cases, right? So now what we can do is, okay, so till this part we are clear, right? So now what I've done extra thing is I have just added like sentiment count, which is like review df data frame and value counts it is doing. So if I just uh, st.write to show you the sentiment count. Okay, and if I save it, so now you can see in the down, if I install once it is there, so it will just show you how many positive, how many negative, and how many neutral responses were there in the entire data set. Okay, so how cool is that, right? So let us just wait for some time because it is checking for like doing all the things. So you can see for positive one and right. Okay, so this, and I have to define here sentiment because it is doing for the individual count, individual row you can see. So I don't want to get the individual row, I just want to check the column and do the value counts. Okay, so let me just do that. So now you can see positive it is 12, negative it is 4, neutral it is 3, and the positive it is 1, right? So you can see there are some p capital, p small is there, okay, and small. So in order to avoid that, what we can do is we can just give it as a string dot title. So it will just you can just see it will just identify all is same, like p the first word capitalized and the other word not capitalized. So this will do. So let us just do that first and then we'll move ahead to build a metric. Okay, perfect. So now you can see if I go to Streamlit and document, and if I want to build a metric and search here metric. Okay, so basically like what we can do is we can just create a KPI cards like this, like as we create in Tableau or any other BI tool, Power BI. So we can also do with Python. Okay, so how cool is that, right? And in an app. So in order to build that, what I will do is I'll just write column 1, column 2, column 3. Okay, and instead of columns, okay, 3. So basically I want to build a 3 KPIs, positive, negative, and neutral. So that's why I'm using this format. Okay, so now what I can do is I can just choose column 1. Okay, and I can build a logic. So for example, the first one is like the positive count. So in order to create a positive count, what I can do is I can just take my sentiment count variable. Okay, and I can just use get keyword to find out wherever it is positive and count all the positive, and if it is not found, just give it a 0. Okay, and then what I can do is I can just use st.metric to create a metric visual, and I can just give first the keyword, that is like positive sentiment, and then I can identify the, what you can say is, the variable. So in this case it is like positive count, and then I can just calculate the percentage, how the percentage difference is there, right? So how I can do is I can just use f string, okay, and I can just use positive count, and I can just divide it by length of review column, like all the total, okay, and I can just use point to place decimal, and if I save it, and if I go to my Streamlit, oh, where's the app? This is the app. So it is just running. Let us just wait, like if it is working fine. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to give it the 100%. Okay, so what I can do is I can just multiply it by 100, right? So now it will give 65%. So you can see the positive sentiment is like 65% of the reviews are positive. That shows a good sign of the business. Okay, if I'm like seeing from the business perspective. Now what I can do is I can just copy this and paste this 3 times, okay, and I'll just do for the 2 things, column 2, column 3, okay. For negative count I can just give it as a negative count and find the word negative, right, and then use the negative count, correct. So there is some error, okay, I've given negative here as wrong spelling, so that's why it is throwing an error. Let me just correct it, okay, perfect, and I can just write it as a negative count, okay, and the same thing I can do for neutral. Perfect. So now you can see I've just added percentage symbol at the end, so because this is a percentage, so now you can see now it's like looking much more intuitive, right? Now one more thing I want to do is, suppose for example I also want to add a donut distribution. I want to add a donut chart which show all the distribution. So now what I can do is I can just go back to again my Streamlit, and I can just search for chart element. So now what I can do is if I want to also plot a donut chart or pie chart, I can just go to the documentation and I can just copy paste it. I will just copy paste for you. So as of now what I'm doing here is like, this is like plotly, so I have to again import plotly library, okay, but as it's not, is showing like the yellow symbol, so that means like it has not been defined. So I can just go to new terminal, okay, and I can just install the library. So for installing, you remember pip install, you can just write plotly and enter. So it will take some time. So it is installing plotly packages. So basically like there are different libraries to plot a visualization. There are like matplotlib, seaborn, but I'm using plotly because like plotly is like the interactive, you can say, library. So now you can see this error have been gone, and now in the down what I have done is I just copy pasted the code from the Streamlit documentation. So you can see what I'm doing here is I can just write as px, okay, and what I'm doing here is like px dot pi, and in the value you can just give your values. So in our case it is like sentiment value, so sentiment count, okay, and index means like the positive, negative and all, sentiment count dot index, and I want to give the title as sentiment distribution. Plotly has no attribute pi, okay, sorry, like plotly, like there's one, like from plotly.express we have to do it because plotly.express library have like the pie chart combination, okay. So that was my mistake I've done, and perfect, right? You can see now like the positive distribution is there, 60% negative and this, and if you want to hover over you can just do it full screen. You can see the label and value, all the things, so you can see how much interactive it is, right? I will do is I have done some modification, and this is my final code which I have done. So now for example if I run this, okay, so just a little bit like cleaning up and like just making it like more, what you can say is app like interface and good thing. So if I run this, okay, so now I've just added like some details like to add some images and all. So I can just click on browse and add my restaurant file, and paste my API key. And once I paste the API key, this should resolve the error. And after I resolve the error, I will just click on the review column. So let us just wait for some seconds. Perfect. So we have seen a lot in this particular video. We have learned like how to build a basic app, like using the text icon to give the text to the customer, and the customer is giving the text, and like then the sentiment is between positive, negative, neutral. And now we have built a fully fledged app. Now the only thing is like we need to know how to deploy the app. So if you want me to make a new video how to deploy the app and share with your broad audience, let me know in the comment box. I'll be happy to make it. And do subscribe to the channel if you haven't. If you want more AI apps to build, then let me know. I'll be happy to like create like more kind of videos like this. And if you love this video and you learn something from it, do subscribe to the channel, as it helped me a lot. Let's target to have 1000 subscribers by the month end if possible. So see you soon in the next video. Till then, happy whizzing and keep learning, and bye bye.